I have seen phenomenal changes during my now reasonably long lifetime. And one thing that immediately strikes me is that my own grandmother would not have been able to stand here and make this video. Not just because there was no technology, she would not have been able to get to Australia in the first place. And she basically lived a life of ensuring that there was a roof and food and warmth for her children. Most of my family, all of my family come from a background of poverty, from the Irish potato famines. And although life had already begun to improve, the women in my family owned nothing, worked. The myth of new working families is a myth. The women in my family have worked for hundreds of years. The difference is that I make a reasonable income and that I work for pleasure as well as for income, and that I have the freedom to travel the world, that I own half of my own house. It was not possible for women to own a house at all when I was a child. They couldn't get mortgages, even if they could get the income together as women, which was only in certain privileged areas. My health has been provided through the benevolence of taxpayers. I'm born into the National Health Service, which kept me safe physically. I have been to university. My mother left school at 13, and she dreamed of finishing school. Dreaming of going to university was not an option. My mother did begin training to be a nurse, but she had to tell fibs to do it and pretend she'd finished high school. They were happy to take her, but because she became pregnant with me, she couldn't finish her nurse's training. And I am in the earliest generation of women that were allowed to wear trousers to work. Even that freedom. And as a primary school teacher, which I was at the time, wearing trousers to work was a freedom we needed, actually, desperately. I had the pill. I was 16. Thank heavens for the pill. We could control childbirth to an extent. And I'm aware, whilst I'm saying all this, that I am really lucky about where I live and where I was born, because this is not the truth for many women across the world still. And in my mind are those women who still cannot go to school, who still cannot have their own income, who still cannot control their reproductive rights. But for me, I've been blessed by feminism. That's how I think of myself. Really, I was born historically so lucky that I have an interesting career. I've been able to lecture at university. I've been able to work in Indigenous higher education, which was such a privilege, and that I earn an income from such enjoyable pursuits is quite remarkable. I also have the freedom to speak my mind. I have the freedom to be a volunteer at community radio. And yesterday, even at my age, I was out DJing at a gig. So, Get Your Freak On is my favourite dance track. And I can still take to the dance floor or the mosh pit. And people might be a little surprised, but nobody tells me I'm not allowed. So I can go where I want, when I want, virtually. And I am aware, yet again, that violence against women is still an ongoing serious problem in our community. But for myself, I have experienced increasing freedom to be where I want, when I want, alone. And age brings its benefits that way, admit. But I have the freedom to live my life, and my forebears were certainly not born with that freedom. They had to live in constraints. So I am so happy and so feminist.